So Candace, if just a question then, so we've had some technical difficulties here starting our council meeting at 1 p.m. today. But just a question to our CAO, if for some reason that your internet does go down while you're recording, do we just carry on with this until you kick back on and Melanie will help us with the meeting as we go then? Okay.
Yes, obviously, she'll clerk it so you have quorum and you have a deputy clerk so you can continue with the meeting and do business. Obviously, hopefully I'm still here when it comes time to deliver staff reports. So you would just have to skip past me, but hopefully that was the last glitch. But yes, you can carry on by all means.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you. So it's around 1:03 p.m. Today of the council meeting. So I just want to welcome everyone. Today, our deputy mayor will be possibly joining us later, just to let everyone at home know. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and thank you all for joining and thank those of you at home who may be watching this recording later. So at this time, I'd like to call a moment of silent reflection. But I'd also like to call a moment of silence for those who sacrificed themselves for us to be free today. Anyway, a moment of silence I'm going to ask for us, please, to take. Thank you. Okay, I'll remind council of a declaration of pecuniary interest at now or at time of subject when it comes up. Seeing no hands at the moment, then we'll carry on. I'm looking for a motion then to approve the agenda for today, November the 10th, 2020. That'd be Councillor War and Councillor Archer. All in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands. Thank you. I'm looking for an approval of the minutes. I need a motion for the council meeting minutes of October 20th, 2020, and one to carry for the council meeting minutes of October 27th, 2020. Councillor Walsh and Councillor War, all in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands. Thank you. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Seeing no hands, thank you. On to the consent agenda. So correspondence for information. So we have, it's a lot of correspondence, C1 through C18, R1 to R3. So I'm looking for a motion on that. Councillor Archer, is there a seconder? Councillor Ward, is there any comments that anyone would like to make? Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, just for, for the library report, which was C16. It's nice to see a report tabled, and it was great reading, great information. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else that has something? Councillor Walsh, please.
Through you, Mayor, just a related comment. We've received a lot of correspondence back from a number of municipalities regarding the cannabis production, and just really want to comment. It's nice to see that level of support out there in regards to our request regarding cannabis production, the whole land use planning, licensing, and communication. So it's just, again, nice to hear that other municipalities are supportive of what our concerns are as well. And I do have one more, if I can, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
And that is to R3.
Okay.
Regarding the waste management diversion report. Again, it's really just a comment to our residents. The positive impact that clear bags have had in our township. We are the #2 township in the county in terms of waste diversion. So it really does go to show that clear bags really can make a big difference. And again, congratulations to our township residents for adhering to that policy.
Very well said, thank you. Anyone else at this time have anything they'd like to bring forward for this? Okay, seeing none, so we already have a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. I'm looking for us then to have a, forgot the word now.
We'd like to vote.
Yeah, that's it, we need the vote. Please. Perfect. All in favor? That's carried. Great. Thank you. There are no delegations or presentations at this time. So now staff and committee reports. So the first one for us to discuss would be R4. So Jeff Walden, our Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services, concerning the Mill Street Bridge replacement update. And I see Jeff may not be on board now with us. So.
Yes, Jeff just sent me a text. His internet has went down. So
Seems to be a running problem with us here lately, eh?
Yes, Mother Nature gave us sunshine, but took away our internet.
There you go.
So he is just going to be jumping on via his cell phone, if you would be so kind as to give him a minute.
Sure. You don't want to skip ahead to R7, Candace, since your internet's still working. We could skip on to R7. So Candace, our CEO, Clerk Treasurer, you could, it's regarding the draft 2021 transportation budget.
Okay, we can do that. So the transportation budget for 2021 is included in today's council package. It is a little bit out of order because the transportation budget was basically dictated based on the bridge and dam plan approval, as well as some other conversations. But so assuming we don't know obviously the direction of council based on those at this time, but we can quickly go through it and come back to it after those reports are delivered if need be. The draft 2021 transportation department budget shows an increase of approximately $3,000 for proposed revenues, 3% increase or approximately $29,000 increase in expenses, and an $18,000 or 7% decrease in capital. So overall, a levy increase for the transportation department is pretty insignificant of approximately $8,200. Although the increase in the levy contribution can be seen as somewhat insignificant in comparison to the total budget as a whole, you can see that the projects that are being done are not so insignificant, and a fair bit is going to be accomplished in 2021. We have broken it down based on the pre-approved 5-year plans. So sidewalks, you'll see as per the 5-year sidewalk plan, a couple things. Highway number 7 panel replacement. So I did have some questions from council in regards to exactly what that meant. And basically a panel of sidewalk is from saw cut to saw cut, for lack of a better term. And when we have water services that break and we have to pop out a panel, we need to replace that panel. Sometimes a panel gets it deteriorates quicker than other sections of the sidewalk, so we just replace a section versus, the entire length of sidewalk on that street as a whole. You'll also see the Elm Street, so the sidewalk on Elm Street that was deferred from 2020, as well as the Baker Street connection to existing sidewalks on County Road 45, which also is a deferral from 2020. Development charges are going to fund 50% of the sidewalk scope of work, so total cost $150,000, $75,000 is being funded through development charges through the development in the community. The approved asphalt plan, you're going to see the micro surface layer on Queen Street. Again, that project was deferred from 2020 to a cost of $58,000. Surface treatment plan, you're going to see a single lift on the Boundary Road, so our Boundary Road with OSM, which is known as Birdsall's, and then the single lift on the Boundary Road with Durrow-Dummer. Obviously, it's a 50-50 split with these neighboring townships as per the agreement with them. So we need to ensure that they obviously have it built into their budget and get it approved as well, so they can fund their portion of the project. So those negotiations and talks are ongoing, and hopefully we'll have some sort of commitment by them prior to our budget being finalized and approved. A double, as per the asphalt or the surface treatment plan, you have noticed that with the new plan, we have spread out the double lift. So 1 year we prep, the next year we actually install the double lift. So it's a prep year on Asphodel third line in 2021. And then as per the plan, you'll see the actual surface treatment layer being applied in 2022. Pretty standard year for surface treatment of $136,500. That's a pretty standard year for us across the board annually. Capital equipment, we have been putting money into reserves annually for the replacement of the excavator. So the 2021 year, you'll see that reserve allocation come to fruition with the purchase. You'll see the bush hog mower being purchased and a replacement of the tandem water tank. So that is the water tank that goes in the back of one of the tandem trucks. It waters the roads, etc. And it is up for replacement in 2021. Total grand cost of $432,000. The excavator purchase, the $400,000 is going to be funded from reserves. $5,000 bush hog mower will be funded through development charges from the development in the community, and the water tank will be purchased through the tax levy. The 2021 capital budget also proposes an allocation for future equipment purchases. We do have a plan, a reserve allocation plan in place for the replacement of all capital equipment and vehicles. So $148,000 into reserves for the future replacement of the grader, which is slated for 2025, backhoe replacement in 2023, and the pickup truck replacement, which previously was slated for 2021, but we have bumped it out to 2022. As per the bridge and dam plan that we will be discussing later on this afternoon, we have the transfer station bridge replacement, as well as the guardrails on the Sand Road Bridge for a total cost in 2021 of $128,500. As well as then capital construction, the township contribution to the realignment of Albine Street to a cost of $75,000. I also wanted to highlight to council Wellington Street. We have discussed this briefly in the past. We do have money in the budget to continue with the detailed design. We have worked on the detailed design and have funded most of it in 2020, but there will be some carryover. We are still discussing and contemplating Wellington Street having a full reconstruction. It's a bigger conversation than today, but we will be reporting back to council. If that project does move forward, the 2021 budget it isn't going to impact that because it would be funded through reserves. So a report would come to council in regards to the scope of work, the details of the scope of work, and what's going to happen, and then the funding, and seek approval to pull it from the capital construction reserves. Operating is a pretty standard year. There's nothing too big there other than the increase in the gravel resurfacing, and you'll see this every 5 years because we do the eastern end of the township, which is the largest chunk that gets done in 1 year. So every 5 years we do see a bigger allocation in gravel resurfacing. And other than that, I'll take any questions from council.
Council, any questions or comments at this time? Okay, seeing none. I just have a comment, Candace. You mentioned a lot of stuff that we're purchasing and getting done are done through development charges. It's more of a comment, but it just goes to show how important development charges are, that we have them, that if we didn't have these and then we had to purchase stuff, how it would hit the levy later in life, or the tax base basically going forward in order to keep doing what we're doing. Is there anything you can add to that for me, or did I basically cover it?
No, that's great. I can just add that there would be 3 options for the township if the development charge fund was not available. That would obviously be an increase to the tax levy, or the asset would just deteriorate with no replacement funding available, or 3, then the township would have to debenture and go into debt to replace that asset. So the development charge fund is vital actually to the ongoing success of this township.
Right. Okay, thanks for that. All right, so do you want a motion now, or do you want to talk bridges and dams first? Or
No,
now
I
that
think there was no questions of council, so I'm fine with a motion.
All right, so council, I'm looking for a motion then to receive this for information, I guess. Councillor Archer and Councillor Walsh. All in favor? That's carried unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Jeff, you're back. Thanks. It looks like you've been put away in a cell there with the back window that you have in your truck. Everybody's having internet problems. Don't fret, my friend. But anyway, so we're back to you now, R4. So Jeff Walden, our Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services. And this report is regarding the Mill Street Bridge replacement update. And you're on mute right now, Jeff. There you go.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you. We can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as council is well aware, in May of 2020, we presented the findings from Jewel Engineering with the bridge deck condition survey that kind of proved some theories that the Mill Street Bridge was maybe beyond some rehabilitation repairs. At that time, we had asked for the opportunity, staff wanted the opportunity to maybe look at some other options and see what was out there. Just with a lot of variables that are just obvious with the low flows that are through there, and maybe determine the need if a concrete structure needed to be replaced or not. So we continued on with some of the theories. We did some upstream engineering just to prove some of the theories, to make sure that a culvert would work to replace that concrete structure. So the upstream work did prove this theory is correct. So yeah, with the Mill Street Bridge replacement, as you'll see in the plan, I've actually got a picture. A large elliptical culvert will work there. In the spring, the flows are heavy, but nothing that a large culvert can't handle, and we've proven that through engineering. So significant savings there. It's a bigger job, but not a huge job. Nothing that a week wouldn't handle. So the scope of work is relatively quick, and because of the short duration of it, we can kind of pick and choose of when that happens. There's still some legwork to do. I mean, with Orca and Oceans and Fisheries that I'll work on this winter to make sure we're all set and ready to go. When the time comes, which as in the plan, it's not next year, we're going to maybe push it out till the following year, because the bridge deck condition survey did say replacement within 1 to 5 years, and we've had some other priorities since then, sort of deal, as we'll see with when we get into the bridge plan. So it is a good news story, significant savings, and feeling confident that a culvert will work there. So and within the estimate of the 80,000, I've also included the full pavement from Highway 7 to meet up on the other side of the train bridge, just to complete that off and make it all look uniform when it's done. So anyways, if there's any questions.
Council, any questions at this time? All right. Seeing no questions then, so we're looking for a motion then to receive this for information. Councillor War and Councillor Walsh, all in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay, thank you for that. And Jeff, once again then, R5 would be 2021-2023 Bridge and Dam Plan, if you want, please.
Yeah, it's kind of the theme of the day today for me is bridges. So that's yeah, this is again with we've really recognized the value in these small plans to keep our focus and keep steering us where we need to go, and long-term planning. We're lucky; we're not plagued with a lot of large structures or bridges and culverts. So yeah, you can see it's basically over kind of 2 years, which isn't huge, but it's going to clean up a lot of issues for us. So I don't know how council wishes to go through it. If we want to just start right on the plan, if that's start with page 1. The transfer station bridge. I guess as a side note with Westwood, when the Westwood bridge failed, all of a sudden it was kind of like, oh, that escalated quickly. Well, this is a look at how quickly they do escalate. It really, since the last inspection 2 years ago, it really deteriorated. It was a good look at how fast it can happen. So, I mean, yeah, not a lot of information or historical information on how old the bridge is. We did the best we could throughout the process. I've included some pictures. You can kind of see how the steel is really deteriorated underneath it. That supports the deck, and it's a wooden platform right underneath that supports the concrete. So yeah, it's really starting to show signs of failing. It's good. It's not a busy bridge, and there's very limited half loads or heavy loads go out, like maybe 2 to 3 a week when it's busy sort of deals. So that's why it's it's taken priority though over the Mill Street Bridge, because it was more of a 1 to 2 year replacement. So as opposed to the 1 to 5 that was determined with Mill Street. So I've included some pictures of some of the research. Again, just kind of thinking outside the box. This is a prefab bridge, just because of the location of it and not high traffic. These prefab bridges are more than capable of withstanding heavy loads that we need to do up there. And yeah, it solves our issue again for half the cost of like a concrete structure sort of thing. At the end of the day, there was some other alternatives looked at to if we could bypass the bridge, but at the end of the day, we still got an old bridge, and it is an asset, and we do need it up there as far as for other uses. I mean, we've got the trails up there now, and so we need that access point. Again, this was one of the first rundowns I had done with kind of a prefab. I mean, I've seen them before and I've seen them around, but it is, again, it's a quick process within a week sort of thing. So it could potentially be put in place and replaced. If we go back to the pictures of the older structure, so those big concrete abutments actually remain there. They have no structural integrity of the new bridge, but they're more or less going to act as like a retaining wall. The new superstructure goes behind those for the prefab bridge. And then basically it comes on a tractor trailer and it's set in place on the second last day, and then everything's backfilled and regraded to match up to it. So that's 2021. And just because it's so many, it's a multi-use property, so that's why we kind of split the budget on it, partly environmental and partly transportation, just to share the costs for that. So yeah, I mean, of course it will have to be tendered, and we'll put the specifications out there for a precast bridge of some of the pictures that we've supplied there. So again, a little outside the box of your typical engineering of a concrete structure, but I think a great solution for that use anyways. So that's kind of takes us 2021. And some of the costing, again, it will be tendered. This is the closest estimate of kind of what some of the other municipalities that have used these bridges have paid for them, that size sort of thing. So again, it will be tendered, and we'll be returning to council with the award once we get it figured out. Again, with the 2021, some of the Sand Road Bridge guardrails showed up in the biennial inspections. I guess I should mention that the biennial inspections drive this plan. So every 2 years we have our structures inspected, and yeah, the need for guardrails was determined on the Sand Road structures. So the 40,000 is the best estimate we could get on some of the other guardrails projects that we've completed around. So that's also included next year as well. And then again, as we've just spoke of, the 2022, the Mill Street Bridge replacement. It's kind of a good snapshot of what a pipe arch looks like. So it's a big elliptical culvert. So you get the volume that you need, but you don't have the height. It doesn't impact your road height. They're a great tool in certain uses. I think I mentioned it within the plan. Mill Street, we would have to raise it 2 feet at the structure just to make sure there is adequate cover over top of the pipe arch. But because it's coming downhill, and just there's no issues on raising the road that much to make sure that the pipe arch is protected. So yeah, and rolling into 2023 now. The Elma Street Bridge was this was the first round for the inspections for it. It's gotten missed since day one with any of our structures. So it's time to get it slid in there. You'll see it does come with some a little bit heavier costs than even some of the other ones for some of the maintenance, and a lot of that is because there's constantly water underneath it. So it's a bit more of a challenge to do that kind of work with the flows. Some of our other structures almost dry right up in in the summertime, but this one doesn't. So it creates a little bit more of a challenge to do that work. So that's where you see the cost of how they have to handle the water and be more careful, health and safety wise, environmental wise, when there's that kind of flow underneath those bridges. So maintenance is a little heavier on that structure, so you'll notice. And again, back to the Sand Road Bridge, it wasn't as high of a priority as the guardrails were, but it was also recommended for some concrete rehabilitation on the curbs and soffits of the structure. And I just included a picture. You can kind of see the rebar starting to get exposed in certain areas there. That's just one of the places. It's important to note with that structure, it is earmarked in the agreement for the Lafarge pit that when that structure is deemed that it's need to be replaced, it is the responsibility of the aggregate extractor to replace that structure, because it was identified as a component that could fail sometime with that pit and a lot more heavy traffic than it's used to seeing on it. So, but we're responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep of it meantime. And yeah, and something very, very new was the dams, also included in the Virgin Dam Plan, of course. We are responsible for, of course, the spillway coming out of the mill pond that crosses Highway 7, and the little known gem back behind Mill Street, the bigger dam on the lower pond that contributes to the main ooze at the toe of the spillway almost. So yeah, it was nice. We had some inspection work and some engineering work done on both the structures. It was nice to see just some rehabilitation at this point, and we'll continue to have those inspected on the same timeline as the bridge and culverts, like a biennial inspection done on them. Dams, just it was a learning experience for myself. There's not a lot of regulations on dams. I would have thought there was more. I mean, the MNR is the governing body, but basically there is not a lot of set in stone regulations on how they need to be treated. But staff determined that, you know, we've got to definitely make some effort to make sure that these things are safe, because when they fail catastrophically, it is catastrophic, that's for sure. So, but anyways, again, some of the caution you can see on both of them. I've included pictures. Everybody's familiar with the spillway. It was hard to get a nice picture of the other one back in behind there, but anyways, again, not the end of the world, just some rehabilitation work, some minor upkeep, which was nice to see. So yeah, that kind of concludes it. If it's easier just for council to ask some questions, I'm sure you've been through the plans.
Okay, thanks, Jeff, for all that. And I did like your pictures and your explanations. So council, any questions at this time? Councillor Walsh, I see your hand, sir.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Jeff, you know, congratulations on the Mill Street project, looking to ways to find some alternatives. I love that. If I go to the transfer station bridge, so we're going with a prefab recommendation, all of that. Again, thinking outside the box versus concrete. Any local municipalities, Jeff, that have used that prefab option, just so you kind of know what, you know, are they standing up? Are they doing well?
The closest one that I found was in Brighton. So I haven't had the opportunity to go down and actually physically check it out yet, but I think actually that's where those pictures had come from.
Okay.
Yeah. So our consultant that does our biennial inspections kind of put me on to the companies out of North Bay that fabricates these bridges. So they give me a contact there. Great, really accommodating individual, spent some time, very educated. Actually, he worked for the MNR for a lot of years, very experienced. Yeah, Brighton was the closest one. There's been a lot of them in Ontario, that's for sure. But again, like he didn't mind, and I fully explained, like it's a tendered process, but he didn't seem to bother. He just wanted to help, which was great for me. So yeah, so I will get down there and check that one out though for sure. Personally, and just see how it's weathering. This will be its third year, I think he said.
Okay. And just one more question, if I can, Roger. Jeff, getting back to the sand road, so we're going to plan is to do the railings in 21 and then do those curbs in 22. Should we be considering doing them both at the same time, or are we okay doing them 1 year apart?
Again, the biennial inspection, that's how it was laid out for that process. I kind of questioned that myself. I wondered if it would be easier to do them kind of at the same time, if it would be a hard process after the guardrails were there. But that's how our biennial inspections flowed. I forget the dollar figures.
Yeah, because that was kind of more my thought. It was just, you know, if you put the railings up, is it then going to be more challenging later to come back and do the curbs?
Yeah, it's yeah. I guess we could look at how the budget finalizes maybe as we get deeper. If Candace wants to weigh in, maybe for financially, if we can handle it or not, I guess would be the.
Yeah, so my recommendation would be to just reach out to the consultant who completes the inspections and just confirm if, and maybe we just need to, if anything, I doubt we may not, considering how much bridge work and dam work we have to do, whether we would be able to combine the two in 1 year, but maybe they need to be flipped and the curbs done first and the railings done second. So let's just confirm with the engineer as to if that the processes won't interfere with one another. And then of course, if we are able to bite them both off in the same year, then we will. But when we laid them out, any bridge and dam plan, we take a look at what all of our other plans have going on, such as sidewalk, asphalt, surface treatment. So I pull all of those parts and I look and see what our capital is running in each of those years to ensure that the plans are sustainable. And we're not having to, because if I pull and do the bridge and dam plan, pull 1 year into an earlier year, that'll then affect another plan, whether it's a sidewalk plan, asphalt plan, and then I have to bump something out a year there. So I would suggest, if it's a good point by Councillor Walsh, and if there is going to be maybe logistically a difficulty once the railings are there, then we'll maybe do the curb first and then bump the railings to the next year. And if not, then we'll just carry on as the plan states.
Yep. Great. Good questions. Councillor Ward, please.
Through you, Mayor. Jeff, I really like how he laid out the plan. I wanted to go back to the transfer station bridge. And I was wondering about the longevity of the prefab bridge. Do they have an indication of how long that prefab would last?
They do. They've laid it out as it's a 75-year structure as well, which is very close to like a concrete structure typically. I think up there the saving grace is it at this point anyways, and if we continue to, unless we require a need to be open more, I mean, it doesn't see the traffic that like a roadway structure would see. I mean, where it's very limited for right now. 2 to 3 days a week is, and I'm not saying that wouldn't change, but I just think you could probably, hopefully it would stretch longer because it doesn't see the heavy impacts that, yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, that's what, as the manufacturer, like it's a 75-year structure. So.
Go ahead.
Sorry, follow up through you, Mayor. The second one was regarding the Alma Street Bridge. And I was just wondering, now that some maintenance needs to be done on it, what year was it first installed? And I guess it's time, if that's a question I might ask.
Yeah, we did. We were all scratching our head. The consultant asked me the same thing. And I think I said, I think they determined, I think they had said in the 40s is what kind of what they had determined is what they were thinking, just by some of the clues that they were given with concrete and how the rebar was done and what the rebar was. I think they were saying like in the 40s at some point. So
okay.
We don't know manufacturers. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of history on it. Yeah, it's the railing. If you look at it, we painted it actually 9 years ago. We painted the railings. They're actually chunks of water main. They were, so they're actually blue. I think it's starting to peel a bit now. We actually painted them black to match the Alma Street Bridge replacement when they had done that one. So,
yeah, unfortunately,
that's all I got.
Yeah, our financial records don't go back quite that far. So, and when I asked you asked the question, that's why I smiled, because we have tried to actually nail it down that year, and
Yeah.
It's not, it can't put exactly to it. We just don't have the records.
Thank you, Jeff.
Anyone else have any questions? I have a couple more just comments, I guess, Jeff. So talking about the transfer station bridge there, when you actually put the pilings in behind or whatever that's going to do to support the new bridge,
Yep.
does that help us with permitting since you're not actually touching the shoreline at all and it's back behind?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with that one, like right now, it's bone dry out there. So, and it's such a short duration. We're not looking at a 6-month project or something like that. So we can, you can kind of hopefully pick and choose your, once permitting's in order and everything, hopefully you can pick and choose your timeline when it dries up. It typically dries up every year. So, yeah, again, and it makes it easier for the contractor. Again, they're not working over water. If they have to walk down underneath for something, they can, and you're not worried. When you're working over water as a contractor, it's a whole new ball game for, PFDs on site and life rings and ropes, and it's a whole other game for sure. But yeah, it should definitely make it easier. That's for sure.
Yeah, my thoughts there is when it does get bid out, if they could just see the site alone, that so when they bring their machinery in, it's already locked behind a gate, it's already protected, it's like there's lots of room and space, and the 90-ton crane or whatever you're using there can stay overnight and have lots of room to swing one thing after another. But that's something that everybody takes into consideration, I'm sure. So
Yeah,
my other comment was the Sand Road Bridge was about the railings. So you mentioned there that the aggregate company may have to replace that bridge in the future. So I guess if we're putting railings on, those railings may be able to be used on the new structure that's put in, say, 10 years from now or so?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all galvanized dip railings, like any guardrail you would see. And yeah, and I mean, they could be probably retrofit. They're the same materials that would probably be used on any box culvert anyways. Yep. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Just looking for savings down the road, like Councillor Walsh was mentioning. So, I mean, when it does get changed, then we have options, I guess, for that. Anyway. Okay. No other questions, no comments? Okay. So we're looking for a motion then to receive and approve, I guess, the bridge and dam plan, please. That would be Councillor War and Councillor Walsh. All in favor? That's carried. Unanimous hands. Thank you. All right. So R6 then, Jeff. Again, this is the provisional railings for the 2021 Westwood Bridge replacement. You want to give us some background on that, please?
Yeah. As we're all aware, the Westwood Bridge failed. I think it's been almost a 2-year process at this point, and it's up for replacement for next year. Throughout the process with the PICs, the public had their opportunity to speak and identify maybe some historical value in the structure and trying to maintain the aesthetics of what the current structure looks like. So working with Peterborough County staff and HP Engineering, who the county has hired to engineer the project, we've determined like the county is willing to pay for the box beam railing, so just the galvanized posts and typical current kind of galvanized railing. We've included some pictures there of what they look like on the majority of a lot of new structures that go in where they're permitted. So that's what the county is willing to pay for. So they did price out what the parapet concrete railing, which would be a close match to what is existing there now. They did a drawing as well for that, and it is a $20,000 more of a cost, and that would be at the township's cost if that's the wishes, if that's what they'd like to see out there on that structure. So they'll cover up until what the box beam costs, and then the $20,000 would be the extra cost for the concrete railing would be the township's responsibility. This is a common process with any structure. I think the opportunity was given for the Alma Street Bridge as well for more decorative. We were given the opportunity on the County Road 2, I forget the name of the bridge, right by our third line, that replacement, we were given the opportunity to upgrade a railing if we wish. So it is a common practice, and all that typically the upper tier asks is that the extra cost for any upgraded railing is covered by the municipality if they wish to see something different. So it's a pretty standard process. So we're getting down now. It is a provisional item. It was included I don't know if the tender's been released yet. It's very close. I think it might be out there now. It's closing. They're hoping to have it wrapped up before the new year and awarded. So anyways, yeah, they've given an estimate that they feel comfortable that the $20,000 would cover a concrete railing if that's the way council wishes to move forward on that structure. We did reach out to the engineer. The lifespan is identical basically for both of either the galvanized or the concrete. There's a lot of what ifs and a lot of variables. As I said, like you could, if it gets hit by a plow and the galvanized is removed, it's going to rust sooner. But salt can impact concrete sometimes just as much as it can steel. So he said there's a lot of variables, but typically engineering wise, the lifespan is the same for both railings. So that was nice to hear. But yeah, I guess we're just at a point now to determine if we're going to move forward with whatever, so we can let the county know. Okay,
thanks, Jeff. Candace, just a question before I take comments or questions from council. The $20,000 that could be put towards that, then if that's the case, do we have to budget for that still, or does that come out of some form of a reserve, or does that just hit the tax levy right off the bat with our taxes coming forward? Where does that money actually come from if we so decide to go forward with this?
So the proposed 2021 transportation budget, which I already presented that report to you earlier in our meeting, it did not include a provision for the replacement of these railings, a $20,000 contribution from the township to the county for the replacement of the railings. If council decides today that they wish to move forward and spend the $20,000 on the railings, that draft will be updated and that $20,000 will hit the levy and be brought back in the second draft at the December meeting of council.
Okay, thank you.
So it hits the levy. It's not getting pulled out of a reserve, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's basically what I was asking, just for council's information and whoever may be listening too. But I guess the thought behind that is, now that we've talked about bridges and dams and one thing after another, $20,000 could go a long ways if we were to try to find that money. But anyway, that's just my comments. I'm looking for council now. Any comments, concerns, questions? Councillor Ward, please.
Yeah, I do have a comment through you, Mayor. I do know that the bridge down at the Concession 3 and County Road 2, it's more of a highway. This one is more, I would say, a pedestrian bridge as well as used by traffic. And I would say that it's probably the centerpiece of the second settlement area in the township. I know that 20,000 seems, it is a cost to the township. I was wondering what the levy would be per household, if that's available, if staff could provide us with something like that. My thoughts are that it would be in keeping to have the second option, which would be the concrete barrier railing instead of the second one. And if anyone else has any comments, that's my comments for that.
Okay, thank you. Yep, that's good. Anyone else like to speak on the matter? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Again, looking at both options, from an aesthetic standpoint, the concrete option certainly looks a little nicer. I think the other option we could possibly look at is working through the EDBAC committee is earmarking some dollars for, we do a lot of, place a lot of flowers in Norwood at the beginning of the year that are up for a lot of the year. That would certainly enhance the look along that bridge versus the steel railings. But I am challenged. $20,000 is a lot of money. I'm kind of practical in that a bridge is really to get people from point A to point B. And I'm not sure spending the extra $20,000 is a right decision to make.
Okay, everybody has an opinion. Perfect. Anyone else have anything they'd like to discuss on the matter? Okay, well, at this time then, we'd have to ask for a motion then. If somebody would like to make a motion, I guess, to receive an award or receive and say no to that. So looking for a motion. Somebody from council? Councillor Walsh.
I'll put forward a motion that we, and looking at the two recommendations we were offered, that we would move to recommendation number 2, which is to direct Peterborough County not to award the modified parapet railing as detailed, and that we would proceed with the 4-box beam steel railing system.
Okay, so that's your motion. Then I'd need a seconder then for that motion to carry. Councillor Archer will second that. Now I'll bring it to a vote, and it's by hands. So I'll ask for a motion. Is it carried? Basically. So I'll put my hand up at this one too, that it's definitely carried then. So, okay, thank you for that. Now I guess, Candace, R7's done. So now we would be on to R8, which would be Candace talking. You'd be doing the draft 2021 environmental budget.
Yes. So the draft 2021 environmental budget was presented to council in today's agenda package, and what is proposing is a 1% increase in revenues, which is represented by $750. The draft budget also proposes an 8% increase in expenses, which is represented by approximately $15,700. And this is partially due to a reallocation of public works labor that is utilized at the site that has traditionally been, so it's a transfer from one department over to another, because traditionally the staff are working at the transfer station site on average 1 full day per week, and that just was getting absorbed in the public works budget. So we want to start tracking that time just for data purposes, and to see if we ever need to make any adjustments as to where those dollars are being spent. So we've now pulled it out and are now itemizing it separately in the environmental budget. A $51,000 increase in capital. Obviously, this is the driver of this is the replacement of the transfer station bridge, which 50% is being funded by this department, with the remaining 50% being funded by the transportation department. An allocation to reserves may be proposed in 2021 when the budget is finalized. So what you're seeing right now is the transfer station bridge capital project is basically eating up or absorbing all of the capital dollars that are traditionally spent. So there is no recommended allocation to reserves for this department at this time. That being said, when the entire 2021 budget is completed as a whole, and we're taking a look at where we're sitting for a tax rate, then we'll be able to see if we're able to allocate any funds to the environmental department for reserves. There's consulting fees that are included for the landfill closure plan, because we need to move forward with that scope of work. As council is well aware, we're sitting at about 1% for the landfill, and we're also have included some consulting fees for a possible organics program to start looking at maybe having organics added to our ACA. And so if council has any questions, I'll take them.
Council, any questions at this time on the environmental budget? All right, seeing no hands, I'm looking for a motion then to receive this for information, please. Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands, thank you. R9 then, Candace, that would be the draft 2021 facilities budget, please.
Yes, so carrying on with the 2021 proposed budgets by department, the draft 2021 facilities budget proposes a decrease of approximately 5% or $2,000 in revenue, a 1% or approximately $1,100 increase in expenses, and a $3,400 decrease, which represents 3% of the capital budget, with an overall levy reduction of $123.60. So pretty insignificant across the board. Again, although the dollar figure is insignificant, there is some projects that are being moved forward. For the town hall, you're going to see the ramp replacement project coming forward to the next council meeting. You'll see the tender award. We have closed the tender, and so we will be bringing that forward to the next council meeting to award that for the 2021 construction season. Flagpole installation, new flower beds and landscaping. So that whole project, we had the flagpole installation as well as the garden that's going to represent the previous town hall caretaker, Gail Sawyer, Gail's garden that was going to be put in front of the town hall, but we don't want to do any of that work until the ramp's replaced and that full construction is done, because we're pretty sure most of the front yard of the town hall site is going to be pretty much destroyed, and then we'll be putting it back together. The downstairs furnace at the town hall is due for replacement, as well as there is a roof repair that needs to happen, one section of the town hall. Total cost of $123,000 approximately. $48,000 is going to come from reserves, which is an allocation that is going to be put into reserves in 2020, which is what was allocated for the ramp replacement. So we put that into reserves this year. The difference will come out next year, which the difference is about $65,000. The province will be releasing the COVID-19 resilience infrastructure funding stream. We did get our allocation notice, and the township is eligible up to a maximum of $100,000. Staff will be proposing that the township put in an application for the full $100,000 that has been earmarked for us for the renovation of the council chambers to 2 offices and a boardroom. The COVID-19 resilience funding is for, retrofitting a facility for separation or COVID related issues. As we all know, the office is quite small and we are in there very snug, but once we bring all the teams back in together, there is a concern. The separation is going to be a big challenge, even though we have lost our current boardroom and moved an office into there. We did take a look at it, and as we're adding to our team, as you know, community programming coordinator is starting in January, as well as the planning budget when it comes forward to council. We'll be recommending a part-time planning and economic development assistant. So with those 2 positions being added, we have no room to put them. So we took a look at it. On average, the council chambers are used, depending on the number of council meetings in the specific month, 2.5 hours to 5 hours per month is what that room is being utilized. Staff, if it was transformed into offices in a boardroom, would utilize that space at a minimum of 40 hours per week. So definitely getting more use for the limited space that we do have. What that would mean is that council meetings would be held in the town hall upstairs. We would set up for a meeting, and we would have purchased new tables, new chairs, microphones, ensure that all of the electrical capabilities are being provided, that we have audio and visual, which we do have up in the town hall already, but making sure that it is set up and easy to access during a council meeting. And due to the separation requirements for COVID, which I don't suspect is going anywhere, when we do go back to in-person council meetings, it will allow us anyway. We would be moving to a larger center, just because we need to be able to invite the public in and be able to separate people. So I think the timing is good, just because of COVID-19. It is opening up this conversation, and I think the timing works. The plan for the 2 offices in the boardroom, I am having a concept drawing being prepared as we speak for 2 or 3 different options as to the configuration of that room and what it would look like, to ensure that the $100,000 that the province is giving us will be able to tackle the project and cover it in its entirety, which it is our expectation based on preliminary discussions that will be the case. And it will include being able to purchase what is required for the town hall upstairs as well. Further details will be coming forward to council as that continues to roll out and we see the rollout of the resilience funding. The medical center, there was a generator that was budgeted in 2020. It tendered higher than what the budget allocation amount was. So we have moved that allocation into a reserve. We'll add to it in 2021 to be able to purchase the generator. Replacement of the washroom flooring, again, due to COVID, that scope of work wasn't able to happen. So we'll move forward with that for a grand total of approximately $51,000 for the medical center. The Heritage Center, we do have in there the new flooring. It was deferred from this year of $12,500. Again, not 100% sure based on the logistics, how that's going to work out with the pandemic, but it's in there in case we are able to get that scope of work accomplished. And then probably one of the most exciting projects between the front of the town hall and the front of the library, the main street is definitely going to be getting a bit of a facelift. So the Rural Economic Development Fund that we were successful in receiving, that project will move forward in 2021 for the courtyard and the outside meeting space in front of the Norwood Library branch. The tree, I'm hoping to get that tree removed before winter, but hopefully that is the case, and then we're able to break ground and get right into this project first thing in the spring. So lots going on in facilities across the board, excluding obviously the community center, but overall very, very minimal impact to the levy just due to the planning we've done in the last few years.
Wow, great job, great report. Any questions from council, any comments? All right, seeing none. Thanks again, Candace. That was very detailed, and I'm excited about the plans for the old council chambers, actually. I think that's great news and a very good idea from staff coming forward with that. Just it's better time and better utilized for sure. So, all right, we're looking for a motion then to receive for information then the facilities budget, please. Councillor War and Councillor Archer. All in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands. Okay, thank you. All right, Candace, again, did you have a drink of water yet?
Okay.
R10, so it'll be regarding housekeeping bylaw for Albine Street.
Yeah, so again, this is, as the title states, it is a housekeeping bylaw. When the village was originally surveyed, Albine Street was actually only a lane, and it was about 18 feet wide approximately. Obviously that's an inadequate width, and at some point the village acquired part 2 of the 45R 9238 plan, and then part 1 on the 45R 16559 plan. So those 2 acquisitions then allowed Albine Street to be what we're seeing today. This came to light with conversations with the developer because Albine Street is going to be realigned. So from Helen Street, where it intersects Albine, to the west to the new entrance onto Keeler Court into the new subdivision. So that encompasses to the south part of phase 1 and then part of phase 2 on the northern boundary that touches Albine Street. Those backs of those properties kind of butt onto the Albine Street road allowance. We took a road widening there during the planning application when they submitted the subdivision application. That was one of the requirements from the township, is to take a road widening to ensure that we have the appropriate width. So when we all of a sudden now Albine Street, which was just a lane, and we had to acquire over the years 2 pieces of property in order to make it an adequate width, and it, part of it was surface treatment, part of it was gravel, and really wasn't an urbanized street. Now fast forward, you see all the development in that area. With Norwood Park Phase 3 coming on board, you're seeing 2 more intersections. So you'll see Marianne Lane and Keeler Court coming down to Albine Street. So what that's created is an interesting dynamic for all of those intersections for vehicular and pedestrian traffic, and that you'll see the hydro corridor that goes through there. So there is some realignment work to ensure that everything is being safe, and then it makes sense that we do have proper width there, and that all those intersections from Helen coming up, Marion coming down, and there's not a complete alignment there. If you notice, it is slightly offset, and then Keeler Court coming down to meet Albine Street as well. So that road widening that happened a few years ago, we started looking at that, started looking at the realignment and the detailed design. Then we realize that when they purchased part 1 and part 2, or whenever the village acquired it throughout the years, they didn't actually adopt a bylaw to bring it into the road network for the township, and legally we have to do that. We have to adopt a bylaw to state, yes, it's going to be recognized as a street or highway for the township. The road widening for Albine Street to the western end, because it was on a registered plan of subdivision as a street, road, or highway, it doesn't need a bylaw. It automatically, when that plan of subdivision is registered, it automatically becomes legally a street, road, or highway. Those other 2 parts that were purchased weren't registered as a road, street, or highway. So this bylaw is essentially just cleaning up something that should have happened long time ago, and adding those 2 parts that are already the existing Albine Street that gets traveled every day as a street are part of the township's road network. That's all this bylaw is doing.
Thank you. Like the heading says, housekeeping bylaw.
Yes.
Any comments or concerns or questions from council? All right, seeing no hands, then this one, we'd look for a motion to receive and authorize the draft bylaw 2020-55 be forwarded to the bylaw section later in the agenda for our consideration. Motion, please, Councillor Walsh and Councillor Ward. And all in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands. Okay, thank you for that. All right, R11, Candace. A busy day for you. So this has to do with the employee COVID-19 screening policy that we have in place in the township.
Yes, so the employee screening policy had to be drafted and implemented prior to today's council meeting as per the updates to OREG 364-20, which is the provincial regulation that is basically detailing all of the COVID-19 impacts and regulations for the province. They have moved based on the recommendation of the medical officer of health, David Williams, for the province, that all employers are to move to an active screening process. So that's basically what this policy details. As to, it directs staff as to how they are to conduct themselves prior to entering their workplace on a daily basis. Each department, as detailed in the policy, is obviously addressing this policy in different ways based on the operations of that department and the setup of the employees. Some are being done in person via tailgate meeting, because they all meet together at a tailgate prior to moving on with their day, and they discuss PPE requirements and the scope of work for the day anyway. So we've just added that as an extra item to discuss during the tailgate, and so each employee is screened at that time. Other employees are submitting the checklist via email to their manager. Some are going to be completing it by phone. As we move forward into winter operations, obviously that is going to change, because the winter public works employees are going to be called out at different hours of early morning to be able to complete their routes. So we have a different setup already arranged for that as well. So each department, it is going exceptionally well. It is a change. We are using patience and cooperation as we've tackled this screening, as it's obviously some people may forget. It is something new, a new step that you have to do in the morning before you head out to work. But I have to say it is going exceptionally well with no big issues to report to council. We have had some employees that have not passed the screening and have not been permitted to enter the workplace, and we've had to follow the steps provided by Peterborough Public Health to navigate our way through that process. Some have been able to return to work relatively quickly. Some have had to obviously get the COVID-19 test, and then we've had to wait for the results before they've been able to return to the workplace. So the screening is doing its job, and it's just the gift that keeps on giving as the pandemic is. So this is just another policy. It's already put in place and it's just presented to council for approval today, and I'll take any questions.
Council, any comments, questions? I have a comment, I guess. So this is happening province-wide, Candace, I guess, right?
Yes.
Through public health, basically, right? So.
Yes, and it was a directive from the province through the medical officer of health, and then each health unit took it and gave out recommendations based on that. And then they asked each of us who had a lot of questions, such as myself, because I think when these recommendations from the province come forward, there's this expectation that, we all report to the same building, for 3 separate shifts a day, and someone can just stand there and screen everyone without the thought that, we have crossing guards that report by themselves to a location, that there's nobody there to screen them, that we have, employees that work alone or work after hours, whether that's a caretaker sanitizing a facility. So I had lots of questions, and the direction back to all of us was to contact our HR solicitors to get their interpretation of the legislation. So that is what I've done. So this policy is created in consultation with the HR solicitor, and he feels that we are in compliance with the intent of the regulation. We can get into wordsmithing it as far as but the province's intent is for each employee to be actively screened prior to entering the workplace. And so I feel that we are in full compliance of the intent of the policy. And it is my understanding that the Chief Medical Officer of Health was expecting that this would be implemented across the province.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, there's just absolutely no question in anybody's mind that this is the rules and they need to be followed. So
whether we like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Council, I'm looking for a motion then to receive and approve this screening policy. Councillor War and Councillor Archer. All in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands. Okay, thank you. All right, Candace, here's one that's so dear and near to my heart that the taxpayers don't really realize where a lot of their money goes to. So this has to do with the renewal of the Ontario Provincial Police contract, please.
Yes, so on November 28, 2017, Council authorized Mayor and the Clerk to enter into an agreement for 3 years for the Ontario Provincial Police to provide policing services to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood. That term is up on December 31st, 2020. So what is before you is the recommendation to enter into a contract for a 4-year term beginning on January 1st, 2021 with the Peterborough County Detachment of the Ontario Provincial Police for the 4-year term. There is no increase being proposed, and I think it's like $300 and some odd is the difference between the 2020 contract requirement and the 2021 contract requirement, which basically is no increase. It is a per household count, so we will start to see as the new houses come online and the occupancies and how MPAC is where they get their data from. So as MPAC brings these houses online, we're going to start to see an incremental increase just based on our household count. Not necessarily, now the calls for service, there is a formula obviously, and our calls for service are down, as the mayor can attest. In our police services board meeting, we do get advised of that, and our counts are down for 2021 and our 2020. So we'll see if that trend continues into 2021.
Yeah, that just rolls over. So here's an example. Happy council, happy staff, happy township. Everybody's working in conjunction and in cooperation with each other. And in these rough times with COVID, we all seem to be getting along pretty good. So I have to thank everyone out there for doing their part. Any questions or concerns from council?
No.
All right, seeing none then. So I'm looking for a motion then to receive and direct myself, the mayor, and the CAO to enter into an agreement and to direct the clerk to prepare the appropriate bylaw.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Councillor Archer and Councillor Walsh. All in favor? And that's carried unanimous. Okay, thank you. Thanks for that report, Candace. Next would be R13, would be the update to the corporate communications policy. Please.
Yes. So back in 2015, I actually drafted a policy at the township's first corporate communications policy and brought it forward with the intent to get permission from council to open social media accounts, to be able to have a Facebook and Twitter presence and to start building that base back in 2015. Prior to that, there was some reluctancy into stepping into that world, but with the adoption of this policy in 2015, we were able to move forward into the world of social media and open a Facebook and Twitter account. It's hard to believe, 5 years since that has happened, and now we're in a position where that policy needed to be updated. You could tell by how it was worded. It was worded in such a way to be, convincing of something, to state that social media has a place in today's society, and it is a communication tool that the township can use to reach the residents. As you can see, we've highlighted, we have been highly successful with Facebook and Twitter. Facebook specifically, we're over 1,300 likes or follows, and we do have an active Facebook following, and we would like to expand on that at this time and add Instagram to the township social media portfolio. We feel that this would potentially allow us the opportunity to interact with the younger generation and the younger residents, as Instagram tends to be the social media platform that is utilized by the younger generation. So we would be able to get the word out that way. So corporate communications policy update is going to accomplish a couple of things. One, it's going to add Instagram to the township's social media account base. It's also going to update the titles of the staff, update the language so it's representative of today, because it was definitely 5 years old and needed that. And it does eliminate the need for press releases to be sent to council members for comment prior to release. That was in back prior to, we lived through a pandemic and we had lots of time to send out press releases. So there would be no way that I could hear back from all of you waiting to get all of your comments and then redraft. It would take 3 days to get a press release out the door. So this way the mayor and I will be working together to get the press releases out as spokespeople for the township. And then as long as council receives an email with the press release prior to it going out the door, so that you're not surprised or blindsided by anything, we feel is the most important part of that process. So I'll leave it with council if you have any questions for me.
Council. Councillor Ward, please.
Through Mayor, more of a comment. I can attest that the social media looks like, the Facebook page in particular, looks like it's well used. And I think it's upgraded very well by staff. So well done to have that many followers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments, concerns? Seeing none, I have a comment. You mentioned about 1,500 likes on Facebook. How many dislikes? Maybe not since the boat launch, as we're closed up, I suppose, eh?
None. No dislikes. No thumbs downs.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're looking to receive and adopt the communications policy as presented, please. Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? And that would be carried unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Candace, here's a good one for you. R14. So we're not having our appreciation night, but you're going to be speaking about it.
Yeah, so the annual Asphodel-Norwood Appreciation Night has been canceled due to the pandemic. Annually, there are funds allocated into each municipal budget to fund that event. So staff is recommending that 50% of the funds go to the Asphodel-Norwood Ministerial Food Bank and 50% go to the Asphodel-Norwood Toy Drive, as both of those organizations are seeing an increase of activity and some impact due to the pandemic. So we would be reaching out and supporting both of those initiatives and providing those funds to families in need.
Okay, thanks for that, Candace. comments, concerns, questions, council? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Again, thank you very much, Candace. I think, you know what, those funds will be, I'm sure in these days of the pandemic, will be well used and well received by both those organizations. So thank you very much for recommending that.
You're welcome.
My comment, I guess, Candace, is this idea that came forward, I'm very much in favor of it for sure, but was this part of your management team's decision that you came up with this, or was this brainstorming when you were supposed to be sleeping?
It's a 2 a.m. thought.
There you go. Anyway, well, it's a great thought and we appreciate it very much. So, all right, we're looking to receive and direct staff to do what was discussed, basically. So looking for a motion on that. Councillor Archer, second it. Councillor War, all in favor? That would be carried unanimous. Thank you. All right, R15, Candace, management action list, please.
Yeah, so you'll see all of the items that dealt with. It's highlighted in orange on November 10th. Coming forward on the November 24th, what you're going to see is a COVID-19 financial update. So that's a state safe restart fund. So it's the $119,000 that we are receiving from the province, and how those, what funds are going to be allocated to each department to offset COVID-19 related expenses. The two departments that got hit the hardest were administration and recreation. So there's staffing implications township wide that COVID-19 will cover the cost. So anything that's COVID related, from payroll implications in bank time to facility renovations to lost revenue to any PPE, health and safety purchases, the VPN server for the administration so individuals could work from home. Anything that the township incurred that was driven by COVID-19 will be highlighted in detail in that report. Obviously, any revenue that was offset by a decrease in expenses that was managed appropriately. Obviously, there's no net impact to the township, so none of the $119,000 is required. You'll see a lot of the headlines that say a certain township or certain city has seen a loss in revenue. You know, I'm more interested in the net impact. So if you have a loss in revenue, well, then we compensated that by decreasing what the operational expenses were for that particular department, or the capital deferrals for that particular department, to ensure that the net impact by department for the township as a whole was within the approved budget allocations. So any department that's seeing a net zero implication for COVID won't be receiving any of the $119,000, because we've already managed that within the pandemic by offsetting with operation, just changing how we're running things. There is some obviously renovations and there's payroll cost implications and PPE and cleaning supplies and all of those things that obviously aren't driven by a revenue that gets offset by it. So we that's what the $119,000 will fund. So that report is coming forward to the next council meeting. You're going to see the draft planning and economic development budget for 2021, same as recreation and community center budget and the parks budget. The town hall ramp replacement tender results, as I explained to you earlier, you're going to see. Building permit renewal fee adjustment effective January 1, 2021. That's just taking a look at a few of our building permit fees. Obviously, as you know, we're in a surplus each year, so we're not doing a complete bylaw redo because the department is funding itself. It's more taking a look at the water meter replacements. The cost of those have gone up, and it's a net zero. What comes in, what goes out, so making sure that we're recovering the cost of what those water meters for a new home cost us to purchase, things like that. You'll see that in a staff report. The development charges bylaw review, you're not going to see probably in 2020. That's going to be bumped to 2021. There's a consultant that's going to have to tackle that and take that on. So I'm going to have to probably potentially release an RFP for that. So stay tuned, but it's going to be bumped to 2021. We're going to give an update on the boom mower just so that council can see that was a new purchase of equipment this year. Just I've asked Jeff to prepare a report to just see how, what that has accomplished for us this year and what we've been able to do with that new piece of equipment. Alcohol policy renewal potentially on the 24th, and then the source water protection risk management official. We contract the risk management official position to Orca, so that is a renewal. That contract is up, so staff will be recommending just to renew that. And then the last meeting of the year after that is December 8th. So you're going to see the full draft budget. You're going to see the township insurance renewal. Few other little goodies. There will be a public meeting that day too, because we have a zoning bylaw amendment, council meeting dates, office calendar. So we know what the dates are for the 2021 year. Curbside collection contract extension, because in the contract we can extend it one more year. So we'll extend it one more year and then we'll tender it in 2021. Any questions? But I'll take any questions. That's basically what's coming our way in the next month.
Council, any questions on this list? I had a question, I guess, Candace, on the list. When you mentioned about the COVID monies coming through for extra PPE and one thing after another that way, and cleaning costs and cleaning supplies, does any of that correlate, say, to the library too? It's something that maybe the library hasn't budgeted for, but that if they submitted a bill through the township, is that something that could be covered on that because it's an extra and above, or how does that work, say?
The library board or the library staff have not reached out to me at all in regards to any COVID-19 implications in regards to PPE or cleaning and sanitization. I do know that looking at their financials at the third quarter, that similar scenario that I discussed with you, although there was a reduction in revenues, there was also a huge reduction in expenses because the libraries were closed. So I am seeing that they're running at a surplus. So I think they'll be able to handle it within the current budget allocation. If they cannot by year end, and it looks like they do need some assistance, and that request will have to come from the library. And yes, we'll ensure that it's not going to be a very large amount. So we will ensure that the $119,000 covers any extras that they have incurred. But I think they're going to be okay.
All right, thank you. It's just something, being on the library board at the time there, I think I did mention it, that financials need to be sent on to say what the extra cost might have been. And if it's a surprise to me that you didn't receive that as of yet, but I guess I'll have to do a follow-up on that. Then thanks. Okay, council, no comments? Okay, we're looking for a motion then to accept the action list as presented. Councillor Walsh and Councillor Ward, all in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands. Okay, thank you. Okay, looks like you're off the hook, Candace, for a minute maybe. All right, so correspondence for action then. The Township of Oro-Medonte. This is a request for support for snow sports, skiing and snowboarding, alpine and Nordic deemed essential in stage 2. What's council's wishes or discussion? Normally we'd look, go ahead, Councillor Ward.
I would say to receive it.
Just to receive it? Okay.
Well, yeah, because I think each municipality has to deal with their own health concerns at that time. And I don't think we should weigh in on whether it's safe or not safe in that jurisdiction. So my thoughts are to receive the report.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. Seconder then on that, or more discussion? Councillor Walsh, you second that?
I would second that.
Any more comments or concerns from council? Okay, all in favor? Then that is carried. Motion to receive. Okay, second would be, the next would be C20, which is Carol Warner, Ron Beth Holsteins. This is regarding a request for partial relief of building permit and development fees. What's councillors' comments, concerns, wishes, questions? Councillor Ward, please.
Through you, Mayor. I have a question for staff for Candace if she might be able to help me. I see that one time there, and I know that there was a home, a dwelling on this property. Would that determine whether a building permit at some time may be able to go ahead without some of these development charges, or is there a time frame within building after a house has been either torn down or burned down?
Yes. So when a full building permit application is received by the building department, staff will take a look at it. They will review it. They'll take a look at all applicable laws, such as the development charges bylaw, any other bylaws that pertain to that particular site. And if it is determined that through our applicable law that there is the ability to waive any of the development charge fee through the current wording of today's bylaw, then that would, obviously we would move forward with that, but it would have to be based on receiving the full building permit application so that they could take a look at it in its entirety so that we can see whether what applies and what doesn't apply. But there is a provision if it's an existing house and it's being replaced, that does impact the fees and charges that are charged to a particular site. But we need to see the particulars by the resident before we can determine all of that.
Yeah, follow up?
Sorry, yeah, just a follow up, please. So at this time, those permits haven't been given or presented to the township building department. So until that time, it's hard to answer these questions.
Yeah, it is my understanding to date that a complete building permit application has not been received by the building department for this property in question.
Yeah, my comment on that is that, yeah, we are open for business and we do need homes in the area for sure. But I am 100% behind staff that they do their homework on how they can make it easier for the home buyers or home builders in order to do what they need to do in order to get it done in our township. So that's just my comment. That staff do their research before they all of a sudden hit somebody with a heavy duty cost to them for sure. So.
It's all based on the township's approved bylaws and everyone gets treated the same.
Yes. Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, again, through you, Mayor, just a comment on this request. And again, we're definitely here to support local agriculture, local small businesses. And it's nice to see a young couple moving back into the township. But I think as we've seen in earlier discussions in our council meeting today is, unfortunately, development charges are a necessary evil. They do help, as we've seen, as I said, in earlier conversations today, how those development charges are used to fund and assist and help us buy and purchase a lot of things that we do need in the township. And unfortunately, my fear would be is if we open up the door and allowed some sort of reduced amount for this request, once that door is open, it's pretty hard to shut the door. And I think we've treated everybody the same all along, and we really should continue to treat people in the same way going forward.
All right, that sounds a bit like almost a motion that it's receive and deny then. Sounds like that, Councillor Walsh?
Yes, I would move forward with that. It's obviously a nice letter going back to Carol Warner, but unfortunately would have to deny this request.
Okay, and a seconder then, Councillor Archer. Okay, so that was the motion then to receive and deny with correspondence back to the homeowner. Looking all in favor? That's carried unanimous with hands. Okay, thank you for that. That was a good discussion. C21 would be Norfolk County illicit cannabis operations. What's council's? Councillor Ward, please.
I would say to receive and support this. I think all municipalities are dealing with illegal cannabis, and I think that we need more support from the provincial government on how to govern this.
Okay, looking for a seconder on that. Okay, Councillor Archer, second it. Any other discussion on that? Seeing no hands, all in favor? That's carried, unanimous hands. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is councillor liaison reports. Anyone have anything they'd like to bring forward in short abbreviation so that the clerk doesn't get over inundated? Councillor Ward, please.
Through you, Mayor, very short. I just want to, there will be a full update on an ORCA report after the November 19th meeting that I will be attending, and also have been in contact with the chair of the Cultural Heritage Committee, and we'll be bringing forth some of our proposals for the 2021.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else have anything they bring forward on this? Councillor Walsh, please.
Through you, Mayor, just to let everybody know, there will be a cemetery board meeting this evening, and I will have a report done, and it'll be available for the November 24th council meeting.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I can say that we had a library meeting last night, and that we approved our draft budget, and it'll be coming towards the to council here in the near future. So. Okay, thank you for that. On to the CAO clerk's treasurers list, please.
Yes, so I want to give council a COVID update. The COVID-19 task force met last Friday afternoon to discuss the next step of the community center opening. So we have, as effective as of yesterday, the dressing rooms at the community center have opened. Obviously with some strict provisions around that. Maximum of 9 individuals, or 9 players, I should say, in the dressing rooms at one time. They have been marked. It's every 3rd hook, and they have been marked where a player is to sit. Maximum of 2 players, or 2 parents, sorry, in the dressing room at one time to assist the players. And the parents, for the players U11, I believe, are able to attend the dressing room. There's 2 dressing rooms per group that are going to be provided, and dressing room number 3 is going to be left for overflow. And then there will be, if we need to, set up a few chairs in the hallway that we have been doing for additional overflow. The decision was made not to move forward with the canteen this year. Unless there's a big about face in the new year, as of right now, it is still 1 parent or guardian per player, so no families. It's exhibition games. People have to remain in the parent watching section. Like, there's just not the activity happening there to warrant bringing in and stocking the canteen with the inventory and then staffing it. So at this time, the decision was made to kind of leave the canteen as is. Obviously, that will be reassessed and reevaluated as we move forward and things progress throughout the season, but we don't foresee that changing between now and the holiday season. The same decision was made for public skating. We haven't received any requests for public skating. We haven't seen any activity in that regard at all. What we are seeing is families renting the ice individually on their own with family members and friends that are already within their bubble, and they're not wanting to be exposed to people that they have no idea who's going to show up to public skating. Obviously, there's a maximum number of people that can be allowed in, so we would have to kind of cut that cutoff off. And then with us not actually getting any feedback from the community in regards to wanting the public skating, it's a loss of revenue that we could be renting that ice. We could staff that time and have nobody show up. I think with the pandemic, the public skating is something that can be shelved for now, and that's what the task force decided. Obviously, again, that decision is reevaluated and looked at as we progress through the pandemic. The Figure Skating Club has advised that they won't. Originally, they were thinking on opening in January and potentially taking some ice then. That is no longer the case. They have decided to call the season and are not going to be offering any services even starting in January. That ice time has since been all rented. So we have no deficit as far as ice rentals with everything that's happening. Things are running relatively smoothly over there. I did draft a memo that went out to the 12 user groups of the community center detailing all of these new requirements, and that went out to them yesterday. Further COVID-19 updates, did receive last night after the library board meeting a request for the library to open for browsing and to move forward with the Westwood Book Club and Seniors Card Club, but with no cards, because obviously the province hasn't allowed that to start. And so I am trying to get the task force together to take a look at that request to see, to respond back to them, because based on the correspondence received, they want this to start as of Monday. So we need to pull everyone together relatively quickly. Does anyone have any further COVID related questions?
I do. If council, anyone first? Go ahead, Councillor War.
Through you, Mayor. I was just wondering, with having the card group together, they wouldn't all be in the same bubble. So is that part of the problem of trying to social distance that card group? How would that happen? Just,
yeah,
that's just a
well,
question.
yeah, the task force hasn't met on it yet, because I just got the request last night at 8:30, but I do foresee that's definitely going to be a conversation as to how they're obviously going to have to, I would suspect the recommendation is going to be that they're going to have to be masked, and that they're going to have to maintain 6 feet apart and sit in chairs 6 feet apart and visit. I guess it's a socializing aspect for this group of seniors needing to reach out and deal with that. So trying to figure out how we can accomplish that in a somewhat small facility when we're open to the public and there's obviously other people coming in and out. So there's some logistics, I think, that have to be figured out. I'm unaware that the library has determined their maximum capacity numbers based on social distancing and how many people they would allow in the facility at one time. So that number would have to be taken a look at. And then as far as browsing the collection, it's my understanding that they would be putting a 30-minute time limit on the people that come in to browse. But those are the types of things, I guess, that the task force are going to take a look at, and then send recommendations back to the library board, and to have them consider that prior to opening for these services as of Monday.
Just a comment on that. If I read the email I was copied on, it sounded to me like the book club and the card club would be after hours. So be unmonitored. That's what I read, I thought. Anyways, I could be wrong on that, but it's something for the task force to look at.
Yeah, sure. As far as anything that's unmonitored, I mean, then the facility would have to be sanitized and cleaned. We'd have no idea where in the building they were. We have found when the facilities are being used and they're being monitored by a staff person, you know what parts of the facility are being utilized. If someone's in there after hours, literally from top to bottom, that entire place would have to be disinfected and sanitized, because you just wouldn't know where, like, what parts of the facility were actually touched and which ones were not. So that is definitely going to be a conversation. Obviously, if they're considering it for after hours, that's obviously because they don't want to be coming in contact with the members of the public. So then we'd be giving out keys. We haven't rented to those types of facilities those types of groups since the pandemic started in any of our facilities. So have to be up to the task force to take a look at it and see what recommendations they make back. Obviously, it is a township facility, so they're going to have to fall in line with what our recommendations are, hopefully.
Councillor War, you had a follow-up?
I do have a follow-up through you, Mayor. I do have one comment that it is isolating for a lot of seniors in the community, especially in the rural areas. And I understand the need for, socialization. And if the tasks can come up with something that is accommodating, I'm sure that they would appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we will do our best. I would suspect, I mean, it's just more, but we have made the decision that the Millennium Room should be where everyone is meeting. It's huge. There's staff there for, 12 hours a day. It's easily cleaned. It's easily disinfected. Whether the recommendation is that, maybe they move to the Millennium Room for now, just for that simple purpose, as it's monitored and it's already cleaned. And then the library board doesn't have to take that on as an extra responsibility or extra expense. So I think we'll be able to come up with something to be able to let them meet moving forward.
Yeah. Candace, just another comment there. What you were talking about the arena earlier and how the hockey is and one thing after another and how the change rooms are open. Can you reiterate for council and who may be listening in the future here from this recording, how we're able to accommodate them at the arena at this time?
So the minor hockey teams have a COVID-19 manager. So that is an appointed person who deals with all of the COVID-19 procedures and policies. Every person who enters the community center is screened. So the minor hockey is screening every player and parent or guardian that is attending them through a database, and they go online and they submit the screening to the COVID manager prior to attending the site. That list is printed, then given to the community center, and is tracked that way and ensured that all policies and procedures are followed. They are everyone is separated. It is well monitored, and basically the responsibility falls back to the users. It doesn't fall on to the township. We are obviously responsible for, we have the facility open, we're responsible for disinfecting, sanitization, and cleaning, but when the users are utilizing it, there is a certain amount of the onus that falls onto those user groups to ensure that their participants are following the rules and the procedures. And the reason that we're able to move to a phase 2 approach at the community center and go to under 18 for one parent or guardian is also one of the things that was decided yesterday, as well as the dressing rooms opening, is because the parents and the players have adapted to the new procedures at the community center, and the staff have adapted, and now we're able to move forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And just to fill in a little bit more, the Millennium Room is quite large. It's wide open to the public, basically. There's no tables to impede anybody unless there's actually a meeting of some sort. And then the tables are all socially distanced, as well as any seating that people come in on are well socially distanced also. So we're following public health regulations to the T as best that I can see that we're doing here in the township. So, but anyway, thank you for that. Any other comments or concerns, questions from council on the treasurer's list here?
I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, that's right. Go ahead. Thank you.
That's okay. Nice try though. So the Load the Loader, the annual Load the Loader event for donations to the food bank is ongoing, but obviously modified due to the pandemic. So a couple of things. One, as of right now, staff, members of council, and the volunteer fire department, we are asking that everyone bring food bank donations to your facility that you report to. So council and administration, that would be the town hall and the vestibule, community center takes them to community center, public works, that sort of thing. And then on November, by the end of next week, I believe, we are going to be, by November 16th, pulling everything together, taking a big photo of all of the collections that we've made for the food bank. Then we're going to be challenging the community to beat the donations that we have given. The community event will be December 8th. So you're going to see a lot. Like this is, I'm running this by you, but you're going to see flyers going out, and you'll see it on Facebook and the website, etc. But December 8th is the date for the community. Traditionally, the loader would drive, or pieces of equipment would drive through the community and pick up the stuff from the residents. Due to the pandemic, that won't be happening. So we're going to actually have stations or depots spread out all around the township. So you're going to see one in Asphodel Heights, one in Westwood, one in Trentview Estates, in the village, all around. And those depots, residents, so they don't have to travel far in the township, will be able to bring their donations and drop them at a Public Works employee and piece of equipment. Then we'll be bringing everything back to the Public Works Department, loading the loader, and taking a photo and putting that out, and obviously getting the donations to the food bank. So that's going to be exciting. So your donations would be appreciated in the vestibule at the town hall, if you would be so kind. We've also are moving forward with social media campaigns by department. So you're going to see, starting very shortly, you're going to see the Public Works question of the week. So we have drafted, and it's going to be a question. So I don't want to give any away, but a random question that you could think of about Public Works and what they do. And we're going to put it out on social media, and the residents will be able to answer. Those who answer correctly, their name will go on the wheel, and they'll get a free big bag of winter salt delivered to their house. And that is going to run for the winter. So that's kind of exciting. I think we've got 10 or 12 questions determined already. Some of them, if no one answers it correctly, it's going to be the person that, because some of them are like kind of quantitative. So if the person that gets closest to the appropriate number or the appropriate answer, and then obviously there would not be the need for the wheel. So stay tuned for the Public Works question of the week. Each department, we're going to be running a social media campaign like that to try to engage the community as we're going through winter to help with those blues. So we're also doing the fire department. We're going to be doing videos. The first video is ready to go. So every couple of months, the fire department, the volunteers are going to be putting out a video about what they, I think it was like kitchen fires and smoke, and then literally they're acting out in these videos. So it's very well done. So we're going to be uploading those up to our social media page as well. So throughout the course of the next year, each department will be taking on a campaign and just engaging in the community and increasing the public relations of that department with our residents. Another big incentive that's coming up is Light Up the Township event. So I'm really excited about this one. So I'll try to remain calm. So the Light Up the Township event is going to be ran very similar to the GIS map for the Scarecrow Roadshow. So residents will be able to register their property to participate in the roadshow for their Christmas lights and their decorations and lighting up the township. And we're going to be picking a date in December, a Friday evening. We'll run it from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and all of the lights, we will be going a little extra with the Christmas lights on the township-owned assets and facilities as well, and giving everyone a good tour so they'll be able to drive around that Friday night, and we're lighting up Asphodel-Norwood. You'll be able to see us on the Google Earth. We'll be so bright. You'll be able to see. So everyone, and then everyone that registers their property, their name is going on the wheel, and there is great prizes. It's so good. First prize will be $250 to the Christmas corner because it's Christmas decorations and it's Christmas, and there's going to be turkey vouchers and things like that. So participate, 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 and let's light up this township. The other thing we wanted to chat about was the appreciation night. So we did talk about the funding part. One thing we haven't talked about is there's always members of staff or fire department, and of course our wonderful volunteers that participate in the committees and boards that we always recognize on that night. And we have some members that are reaching some milestones. One staff member that's 25-year pin. We have a couple that are reaching their 10-year milestones. And then of course, recognizing the volunteers. So what we're thinking is we're going to put out a social media, kind of take their picture and write a blurb about them, you know, congratulate this employee for 25 years at the township, you know, they've done A, B, C, or D, and then do the same thing for the committees and boards. Did you know that this committee and board existed? This is their mandate. This is what they do. Thank you so much to these volunteers. Kind of spread that out throughout the holiday season so that each volunteer and fire department member or staff that has reached a milestone is still recognized, and they'll probably get more recognition this way than they probably would at the appreciation night, because members of the community will realize what they have given back. I'm leaving that out to council. If there's anything else that you would prefer to see for the appreciation night in recognition, as you're aware of how the evening runs and what we recognize that night, by all means, reach out to me with your thoughts. And we can, of course, incorporate them as best we can, dealing obviously with the pandemic. So, and Mayor, now I'm done.
I just wondered, Candace, on that list, if you wanted to talk about the meeting with Hydro we might be having here shortly. Just to have council aware of that.
So the committee that has been formed, the Hydro one for the purchase of the PDI. So there's the mayor of Selwyn, the mayor of the city of Peterborough, Roger, and then the CAOs and a few other members and representatives of Hydro one. I believe our first meeting is Thursday morning. And just, we're not really 100% sure exactly what is all going to be discussed at the committee meetings, but obviously this is the first one. We're going to be able to kickstart communications with them and any communications that need to be given out to our residents, and we can advocate on behalf of Asphodel-Norwood residents and any implications that they may have due to the sale of PDI. So obviously at our next meeting, I think Mayor will be able to give some sort of update and where we're headed with that.
Right. Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, I just wanted to go ahead, Candace.
One more thing.
Have something? Yep.
Sorry, I missed one thing in the COVID-19 update, and that is the food bank. The food bank has gone to an appointment-based process as they're moving into the inclement weather. So what they're doing is they are making appointments with the participants of the food bank, and they're coming into their time, and they are able to come into the town hall and get their food boxes. They are not touching the food items. The volunteers are at the tables and will be placing their items into their baskets that they're choosing. It's going to accomplish a couple things. One, the volunteers were packing the boxes in advance. And as we're getting into Christmas and as we're seeing anywhere from 50 to 70 families participating on a regular basis, there was a lot of duplication because they weren't necessarily able to track. So maybe this person got peanut butter and they got peanut butter last week. And so it was really taking a toll on the resources. So this way they're able to come in and actually get what it is that they actually need or require at home. So that's one thing. So it's going to be a little easier on the inventory. Two, the other thing that it's going to accomplish is it's going to ease up on the volunteers. The calling of all of the participants, booking the curbside pickups, then coming and packing all the boxes, then labeling all the boxes and calling all the people back and delivering them to the house, definitely has taken its toll in the last 7 or 8 months on that volunteer group. And as the group is heading into winter, they are definitely looking for an easier process. So as long as it's appointment based only, everyone will be masked. There's not going to be multiple people in the facility at one time, and they're not actually touching the food inventory that is going to be placed into their basket by the volunteer. The task force did approve that. So does council have any concerns, questions in regards to that food bank change in operations?
Thank you for that. But before I say anything or have anybody say anything, I just want to welcome back our Deputy Mayor Burt. And for the record, I guess I'm not sure if we need to record it, but it was at 2:46 when I seen that, when she'd come back onto our Zoom meeting. So welcome back, Lori. Thanks for being here. So any questions or concerns for Candace's list that she had, or anything to do with the food bank? No? Okay, seeing no hands then, we don't need a motion to receive or anything like that? No, thank you. All right, on to general business. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns on general business? Councillor Walsh, please. Oh, you're muted, Barry, sorry.
There we go, sorry. Back at our last council meeting of October 20th, we had received a request from numbered company 1087086 Ontario Inc. For approval of an amended preliminary development agreement for the Wellington subdivision. Candace, have we received any more correspondence from them as to kind of why they were looking to want to have that amended?
No, we have not received any further correspondence. The only correspondence that the mayor and I've received since the date that they've submitted that correspondence to council for inclusion on an agenda was basically just seeking follow-up. Has it been addressed by council and has any decision been made? That is the only correspondence that has been received since this time. No justification has been received, no details, no particulars, nothing that could advance your decision making for you at this time.
Okay. So what kind of would be next steps? Do we need, because it was really, nothing took place on October 20th.
No, so October 20th, you received it and you directed staff to discuss it with solicitor and to receive solicitor advice. Then that solicitor advice was provided and was discussed. And now I think we're at a point where council needs to determine whether you're going to deny the request to amend the preliminary development agreement and let the existing agreement and bylaw stand, or whether you're going to approve the request and amend the agreement and rescind and repeal the previous bylaw and direct staff to prepare a new bylaw. So that is the decision before council. It's deny the request and let the current agreement and bylaw stand, or approve the request, direct staff to prepare a new bylaw, draft a new agreement for council's consideration at the next meeting.
Good one. Any other comments or concerns on this matter before I ask for some form of motion? Seeing none. Barry, Councillor Walsh, would you like to make a motion on this thing?
I will table something under the floor for discussion at least. I would say based on this lack of response, that my motion would be to deny the request of the amended preliminary development agreement.
Okay, seconded. Let's go with Deputy Mayor Byrd on this one. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, I will second that. We don't really have any further information, so I will second that request. Or second that motion, sorry.
Okay, any other comments, concerns, or questions? Being none, I'm looking for the vote then, please. And that has been carried unanimous. Okay, thanks for that in general business. Anything else in general business? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things. I was just wondering, the Roma delegations, I think, are due the end of November, and I just wondered how council, excuse me, felt about doing some sort of delegation for rural doctors and funding of rural nurse practitioners, because I know the funding is different for that. And I think we've addressed this before, so I just wondered what council's feel was around addressing that, if it would be worth it or not, because we're certainly in the need of getting some more medical services in our village, or in surrounding township.
Yeah. That's a great comment. Candace, maybe you could help us with something like that if there's a delegation possible for something like that, or is it not too late to put something in, I guess?
No, we submitted for the same thing for AMO. And based on the feedback we got from the ministry, is because of the COVID-19 pandemic, any of the healthcare minister is, the odds of us getting a delegation in regards to this particular topic because of COVID-19 is very, very slim. But I have no problem with submitting the request. But right now they're really looking at receiving delegations in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, based on my conversations with the ministry to date throughout this pandemic. That's what I want to hear. What has impacted you? How are you handling things financially? All of those types of things. So COVID-19, I think, is probably going to trump us with the Minister of the Healthcare. But we can submit the request. It takes a bit of time to submit it and just see where it falls. But I think we may be better served by starting a conversation on the side of the conference, because I think the conference is going to have a very specific conversation and a very specific mandate because of the pandemic and with the vaccine situation, and all of that is going to, I think, overshadow. So my recommendation, I can submit the delegation request. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying on top of that, I think we can start another conversation with the ministry and asking for a deputy minister or a staff member, the executive assistant to the minister, to meet with us and start getting it on the radar. I think we would be more successful with that approach right now.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, and that's fine with me. Whatever approach is going to get our foot in the door and get us through there, because it is something, regardless of what is happening with COVID. I think it's important that we had some forward momentum, and I think we need to keep moving forward. So I think reaching out, starting on a local basis before that's fine with me. If council feels the same.
Yeah, I'm having a meeting with David Pacini, our MPP, here again on Friday morning with a Zoom meeting. That's one topic that I could bring up going forward with something like that. Candace, do you want to, while we're just talking about ministers and one thing after another, just give council an update how we're making out with our minister in the area here?
Or the lack thereof. So I'm assuming you're talking about
Yes, I am.
MP Monzef. So we've had 3 meetings. The 3 meetings have not occurred as previously reported to council. I did send another email to the executive assistant last week asking for a meeting time for this week, and the response was that the schedule is full and they will advise whenever time becomes available. So
isn't that fine?
That's it. So what we're going to do now is we are no longer going to waste our time on that. And we are going to go to MP Lawrence, and we are going to detail to him our issues in securing a meeting with his colleague and ask him to request a meeting with her directly. And I'm sure MP to MP will have much more success in securing that meeting, and then we're going to tail along to his meeting and be able to speak to her that way. So I am hopeful by our December 8th meeting that we will have something to report to council in regards to the CCR ICIP funding, as well as where is the money for the rural and northern stream for Centerline Road that has received all of the approvals and the agreements in place, and the scope of work has started. So those 2 conversations are obviously important and very high on the mayor and I's to-do list, and we will be securing a meeting some way or another by December 8th.
Isn't that a great update, council? Councillor Walsh, go ahead, but you're muted. You're muted.
Candace, so Centerline Road funding was one priority. What was the first one again? Which funding stream?
Community, culture, and recreation.
Okay.
ICIP, CCR. I probably said CCR. I apologize for using the acronym.
Okay, and that would be for?
Community center expansion.
Okay. Okay.
So we are waiting for the federal government on that one as well.
We have received provincial on that one? Correct.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I just have one more thing, maybe on a lighter note, just to let everyone know that the virtual Royal Agricultural Winter Fair began today, and it runs for 4 days, I believe. And there's a lot of educational resources on there. So if you have any teachers or children in your life that would like to take part in that, there's quite a number of different programs going on. So I just wanted to pass that along to everyone.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything under general business? Seeing no hands, I would like to talk for a second then. I just want to talk about libraries, basically, or our library. I'm having, I'd like to put it out to council that if somebody else would like to come on board with the libraries with me, I'd more than love to have some help with that. just as time's going on and things are changing, I got a few more meetings that I'm looking after that's going forward at the county level. Not saying that I can't handle the extra workload because I've actually volunteered for it. It's not a paid thing. But if I could have some support through council, possibly with coming on board with the library, I think there's room. We had one person step down and that position was never filled yet. But I think it's a minimum of 5 on the library, and I forget the maximum. I tried to find it today, but I couldn't. But like I said, I think there's room, but I'm just putting it out there to council if anybody had any thoughts or had any extra time. There's no more meeting that I'm aware of unless something happens with this task force that we've talked about for the browsing for the library. But the meeting, there won't be a meeting, I don't believe, this December. So just to bring that forward. But just leaving it open for council. Any discussion or comments or concerns at this time going forward? Okay, I see a hand. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Burt.
I know I'm the alternate on that. And I think since you came on, Roger, I've maybe done 1 meeting. I know there are some other committees that might be changing, and back might be one. I think that's going to be moved around a bit. I'll let everyone else, if they'd like to, volunteer, that's fine. But if there's no other volunteers, I could probably go from the alternate position and go on a more regular basis. But I'm not going to take that spot if somebody's dying to get on the library board. So I'll just throw that out there.
Okay, thanks. And Councillor Ward, I see your hand, please.
Well, through you, Mayor, were you going to step away from the board entirely, or just like if you needed an alternate? I could be an alternate to Burt. I'm just throwing Deputy Mayor Burt if you were going to step aside for that committee. Up to you.
Well, if Deputy Mayor Burt, this is just my discussion, and please, Candace, step in if maybe I've overstepped my bounds. But if Deputy Mayor Burt did come on full time as far as a committee member is concerned, there's nothing saying that you couldn't be an alternate to either one of us if that's the case too, right? I mean,
yeah. So it's my understanding. So to answer a couple of your questions, the Public Libraries Act states that it's a minimum of 5 members. I don't think in the Libraries Act there's a maximum to the number of members, but our own terms of reference, I think we've put a maximum of 10 on it, just by our own, how many people we're going to appoint from the community so that the board doesn't get obviously too big. But I know the minimum is 5, and then the maximum number of council members then that could be there, if you had 5, would be 2, because it's literally, in the case of a public library board, 1 less than a majority of the board. So 1 less than quorum can be appointed to the board. So it can easily handle with the number that are on there, 2 members. And then of course, if it's council's wishes, Councillor Ward can be, or anyone can be, an alternate to any member that sits on the board as a voting member.
okay. Deputy Mayor Burt, you had a follow-up?
So yeah, so we could keep like Roger and I on as the regular board members with Paula as an alternate if one of us couldn't make it. So then two council members could be voting members at a meeting just in case. Like if Roger's getting busy with other committees and that sort of thing,
Yes.
that might not be a bad idea. Even though there's 2 council members on, it might not be a bad idea to have the alternate as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? You talked about, you made the highlight there today, Councillor Ward, about receiving some correspondence through to council today. You would be receiving correspondence from now on if that was the case as an alternate. So that's basically where we'd be going with that also. So plus also coming to the rest of council too, it would be the wishes of the board. So so Candace, if that's the case, do we have to make it to another meeting before we bring this forward, or can somebody make a motion now to appoint, or how does that work for us? If now that I have somebody hooked on the end there, I just don't want to lose that,
Right. So council has identified the the desire to appoint another member to the library board, so you can appoint them by motion. There is a bylaw, which I was just looking up here to determine what the bylaw number was, that appointed members to committees and boards, because that bylaw will have to be amended. So if you make the motion today, we will bring the amended bylaw back to the next council meeting.
Great. And there's no meeting of the library as far as I know for this December anyway, so.
Okay.
All right, council. So any other discussion on this before we ask for, so I need somebody to make a motion then, I guess. Councillor Walsh.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion would be is the library board council members would be Mayor Roger, Deputy Mayor Laurie, and alternate Councillor Paula Ward.
Yeah.
That is,
Okay.
that's my understanding.
Okay, looking for a seconder on that. Councillor Archer, thank you for that. All right, any other discussion, comments, concerns? Well, thanks, council. Looking for a motion then, or we already have the motion, looking for the vote then, please.
All in favor? Yeah.
And that's carried unanimous, all in favor. All right, well, thank you for that very much. Anything else under general business, council? All right, seeing none, then we're moving on, and there's no notice of motion, and there's no closed session. So Candace, it's up to you again. We'll have the bylaws, please.
Being a bylaw to establish and lay out a public highway within the township of Asphodel-Norwood, be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2020-55.
Right, and for Deputy Mayor Burt, this had to do with Elbine Street, the fixing of it, so a housekeeping bylaw basically. So looking for a motion on that. Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that would be carried unanimous. Thank you. Next bylaw, please.
Being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario and the Corporation of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood, be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2020-56.
Thank you.
For the
And
OPP
this-
contract.
Yeah, the OPP contract, exactly. Looking for a motion, Councillor Archer and Councillor Ward. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And confirming bylaw?
Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held on November 10th, 2020, be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2020-57.
Thank you. Motion, please. Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that's carried unanimous. All right, what a very productive day. Thank you very much, council and staff. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn then, and the time is 3:14. Motion would be Deputy Mayor Burt and seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Big meeting, a lot discussed, and thank you and stay safe out there.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.